A symptomatic manifestation of social instability. Cameroonians from Campo in the south region, Yaoundé 6 in the central region, Gongsamba in the littoral region, and Kumba in the southwest region goes on strike, demonstrating, manifesting, and denouncing some different but correlated actions within the country. Their disturbing images and emotions expressed have been captured for you, ladies and gentlemen, for the primetime news on Equinoxe television. It is no news that the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, shattered by an armed conflict, has been decried or described by the government of Cameroon as an economic disaster zone. But surprisingly, a strange kind of business is flourishing in the northwest and southwest, which I will tell you just in this edition of the news. You're on to the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. We are live from Cameroon's economic capital city, Douala. Equinoxe Central News Desk. We begin with our top stories. A series of strike actions, demonstrations, and protests recorded across the Republic of Cameroon. What has been qualified as a systematic manifestation or a symptomatic manifestation of social injustice, social instability. We'll take you first to Campo, a locality in the Ocean Division of the South region of Cameroon, where inhabitants of Akak, a village, went angry this day, and of course blocking the main road leading to their village. They say they are being exploited by some individuals with the complicity of some administrative officials in the south, in that parts of the south region of Cameroon. Innocent Aze takes us to Akak.
A furious mother in Akak village in Campo subdivision, south region of Cameroon. This deplorable seasonal roads makes annoyance inevitable. Government officials will now blame coronavirus. It is not coronavirus that has made this road impassable. They should help tar it. Recently, locals blocked the roads, preventing this administrative vehicle from passing. Traditional ruler of Akak, Her Majesty Irene Evina, is sitting just a stone throw from the barricades. He arrived and suddenly began shouting without even asking about the chief, asking if we were aware it is a public road. He even ordered that this caterpillar be used to smash the barricades, and the road reopened. We laid flat on the ground for them to do their wars. He and his gendarmes cannot intimidate us. They are not my superior, but my collaborators. I am in my area of command. I have the riches in my land, but why can't I and my people benefit from it? Strangers come and exploit our resources for their egoistic interest without any development, yet they come to speak trash. I am tired of it, and that exploitation is over. Some 500 meters from here, a general assembly is organized. A former delegate contested by the chief is given another mandate. Works which are ongoing under the supervision of the divisional officer of Campo shows tensions are common here. I can see the problem is as a result of lack of understanding, as the common initiative group that was headed by the former bureau saw their mandates come to an end. There were so many troubles which did not permit us convene a general assembly. The COVID-19 coupled with late exploitation and payment served as obstacles. As the divisional officer orders for the opening of the public roads, tension rises, leading to a general fight. action of the population is qualified by the divisional officer as a theater.
C'est du théâtre, c'est du théâtre, c'est du théâtre. Parce qu'il a perdu 1 250 000, il n'a même pas pu acheter une seule paire de babouches de 250 francs. C'est de ça qu'il est question.
Though the road was forcefully reopened for normal circulation, Her Majesty Irene Evina remains adamant she cannot be intimidated in her territory and is ready to face any administrative authority. She terms her collaborators and not superiors with her ancestral powers.
Et je lui ai dit, même tes gendarmes là, même toi-même, vous ne m'intimidez pas et vous n'êtes pas mes supérieurs, vous êtes mes collaborateurs.
From one protest demonstration, from one strike action to another, Innocent Aze will not be back to the city of Douala but stay from the south region in the central region of Cameroon, taking us to the Yaoundé 6th Council in Yaoundé, where workers of the council have also gone in a protest demonstration manifesting in front of the council building. They are asking for over 6 months of unpaid salaries, and the mayor reacting after the protest demonstration, so they went protesting. Innocent Aze takes us into another strike action.
Municipal executives and personnel of the Yaoundé 6th Council go on peaceful strike at the council premises, reclaiming 6 months unpaid salaries. We are in deep embarrassment because the right information was not relayed to us. We didn't know if it was the municipal collector who was holding back our salaries or our boss, the mayor. It is just of recent that we learned he had issues with the municipal collector. We asked how that concerns us. We were first at 3 months unpaid salaries and now at 6 months. Enough is enough. We have blocked the gates. Our salaries must be paid at all costs. In response, the mayor of Yaoundé 6, Jacques Yoki Onana, says it is only an administrative problem and not empty coffers suffered by the council.
Administratif, c'est loin d'être un problème de ressources.
The municipal collector, who resigned since October 5th, 2019, was only replaced on July 6th, 2020. But a month after, the new municipal collector has not taken function. According to the mayor, Jacques Yoki, what hinders the handover process could be administrative, but not within his competence. Those who have this responsibility should solve the problem at their level. Truth of the matter is that the ministers of decentralization and finance are not satisfied with nomination of the new municipal collector, despite the general codes of decentralization allowing locals elect their choice. How is it possible that a council does not function effectively for 6 months, whereas we are in a decentralization process? Shall we continue to have such a problem in all councils in Cameroon? Decentralization was launched, yet councils are not allowed to work on their own. It is thanks to the divisional officer for Yaoundé 6 and the security forces who peacefully negotiated with the disgruntled council personnel before the blocked gate was reopened void of tension. A crisis meeting followed, grouping the divisional officer and the personnel representatives.
We are not yet done with strike actions and different protest demonstrations across the Republic of Cameroon. That is a symptomatic manifestation of social instability. Also in Konsamba, in the Mungo division of the littoral region of Cameroon, some inhabitants went protesting, as Immaculate Fugwe tells us in the following report.
The office of the divisional officer of Lunako in the Mungu division stormed by the angry population. They are protesting against rising insecurity in the area. The latest attack was carried out on Joe Franklin, who was molested and inflicted injuries with the aid of a machete in his house. The bandits asked me to give them money, which I did. They seized my phone and that of my wife. They asked me to equally withdraw money from my account. When I told them that I did not have money in my account, they chopped my fingers with a machete. They equally got my wife severely beaten. After alerting neighbors about the scene, an immediate search was launched. We had to kickstart our search in bushes. It took us close to 4 hours in order to get hold of these bandits. Another victim says,
Armed robbers break into my house. They arrested all of us and took some money. They took some meat from my deep freezer because I deal with bush meat. I buy bush meat to sell. So they collected some bush meat from my deep freezer and they took some money. And they also took some money from my junior brother and took some 1 or 2 valuable items. The genius of the group, some other members of the group wanted to, deal with me badly, but the leader of the group insisted that they should not touch me. What they only did was to threaten me. They did their best to threaten me to bring all they could get, to get all they could get from the house. So they did not.
For several years, the population of Manengole, Kongine and Ebone, localities in Lunako subdivision, have been gripped in fear due to challenges they have been facing. Speaking off camera, the divisional officer for Lunako subdivision assured the population that measures will be put in place in order to put an end to the security threats the population is facing.
And before we continue with protest demonstration in the southwest region, we stay first in Buea to say angry expressions were as well recorded today in the southwest region achieved on Buea, precisely in a place known as Deti South Buea, where a makeshift building or a building constructed of planks went in flames this day in Deti South, a student residential neighborhood of Moliko Buea. The building was completely ravaged by flames under the watchful eyes of helpless inhabitants and occupants of the structure. According to information coming in from Buea, the fire incident erupted from a gas bottle that was lighted by inhabitants and of course allowed for some time. The contents of the building was completely reduced to nothing by the flames, and of course it is said that the building was occupied by students of the University of Buea. They left their house to sit for their exams. While coming back, they met the building in flames. And from Buea to Kumba in the Meme division of the southwest region, where traders of the Fiango market this day went on a rampage. They were angry over the move of the divisional officer for Kumba 2 subdivision to seal some shops within Kumba 2, shops that respected the traditional ghost towns yesterday. It should be recalled that not only shops within Fiango market, shops within Kumba market, the Kumba main market and the commercial avenue in Buea in Kumba were also sealed by the government delegate, rather the mayor of the city of Kumba, accompanied by the divisional officer for Kumba 1 subdivision. And of course, according to the protesting and traders of the Fiango market, it is not within the competence of the divisional officer for Kumba 2 to seal shops within the Fiango market. They say the Fiango market is controlled by the city of Kumba, and only the mayor of the city of Kumba should take upon himself to do so. It should as well be recorded that ghost towns was effectively witnessed in Kumba yesterday, and within the fight to kick out the ghosts out of the city of Kumba, the mayor, accompanied by the divisional officers of Kumba 1, Kumba 2 and Kumba 3, went to seal shops of business owners who respected the traditional Monde ghost towns. Traditional Monde ghost towns have been used as a tool by separatists in the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. It's been a feature of the crisis in the Anglophone region since 2017. And now we talk something else in this edition of the news. As we told you in our top stories, the northwest and southwest regions have been declared by the governments of Cameroon as economic disaster zones. It is a decision signed since 2019, but surprisingly, a kind of business is flourishing in the two English-speaking regions, reduced to almost zero by an armed conflict. It is the illicit trade in fuel. Some 20,000 liters of illicit fuel were intercepted recently in the northwest regional chieftain Bamenda, as Mbustela tells us in the following report.
Ozwazwa is gaining grounds within and without the city of Bamenda. Despite the risks involved in case of an accident, more people are getting involved. Their business seems to be flourishing. In Bamenda, headquarters of the Northwest region, majority of vehicle owners prefer buying at the roadside and very few still visit the fuel stations. Fingi Ozwazwa has disadvantages, but its consumers, speaking of Kamer, say it is cheaper and much more available. They buy and sell in the open, but the business is illegal. The fuel is illegally transported, sold by unrecognized vendors, reason why security forces are cracking down on them. A recent move was on Friday, August 7, 2020. This motor park was invaded by elements of the National Gendarmerie and over 20,000 liters of fuel, 2 bags of marijuana and canned drinks impounded from the nearby vehicles and shops. The area is also reputed for repeated attacks by gunmen. The Northwest Legion Commander, Colonel Bumbisu, says they are also determined to stamp insecurity out of the area.
We are here in Bali Park, and in Bamenda nowadays, Bali Park is really a security risk, and we are working on it. We are really here in a place where anything can happen at any moment. While we are even working, we have been sure that they are coming to attack us. This is the place where 2 gendarmes were killed in March this year. While they were making their patrols, they were killed here by these separatist boys. Around Bali Park, we are here, we are on spot, and we will always be here looking and wondering that the place should be secure.
With the devastating consequences of storing inflammable liquids around residents and the recent explosion in Lebanon, the Legion Commander says they are also relying on the inhabitants in order to avoid an occurrence in the Northwest region.
And we stay in the conflict-hit northwest region of Cameroon. Apart from ghost towns that have been used by separatists as a way to fight in the conflict hitting the Anglophone regions, there has also been school boycotts. Schools have remained grounded in larger places, or in most places of the 2 Anglophone regions of Cameroon. In the Donga Mountain Division, the divisional officer for Kamer Central Subdivision says schools must go effective for the 2020-2021 academic year in his area of command. He says school effectively went on, but for the Ward zone, where schools were grounded because of separatist activities. He went further to warn parents who will fail to send their children to school that they will have him to contain. More in the following report.
I also remind those who may want to stand as stumbling blocks to this move that they will not do it and they will not go free in attempting to do it.
Because of the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, schools across the Ward zone in the Kamer Central Subdivision of the northwest region of Cameroon failed to open throughout the 2019-2020 school year. But the divisional officer for the Kamer Central Subdivision, Mr. Ngida Lawrence Che, is determined to change the dynamics and says history must not repeat itself for the 2020-2021 academic year.
I've chosen Ward because Ward is the center of the Mbo Ward zone, or the Ward zone as we can call it, and this is a zone that has suffered a lot from the hands of the armed separatists. From the onset of this crisis till now, not a single school has functioned in this zone. And when you look around me, you see the children, you look at the population, they are craving to see their children back to school. Because the armed separatists, they obliged them to stay in their houses. They did not send their children to school. Around me, you see the children, you look at the population, they are craving to see their children back to school. Because the armed separatists, they obliged them to stay in their houses. They did not send their children to school. They did not stay in their houses. They did not observe ghost towns out of conviction, but out of constraint and out of fear. But today, they have braved the odds. They have put behind that fear. They are working in close collaboration with the forces of law and order, and with I, the divisional officer, and with all the stakeholders of the administration, so that life goes back to normal.
Above the security reasons, other factors motivated the choice of Wat village after the official launch of the Back to School campaign on Wednesday, July the 29, 2020 in Kamer.
I choose this zone because it's a zone that has a lot of children of school going age, and considering the fact that our children have not been to school, they have suffered a lot. And they have said it that it is time for all these sufferings to end.
Though braving the odds into villages to sensitize, the divisional officer has an ultimatum for parents within his area of command.
What I expect is to see all the children back into the classrooms. Academic year 2020-2021 has been termed Operation Zero Child in the House. Operation 100% school resumption. I've equally come to sensitize them, but at the same time to remind them that those who fail to send their children to school, they must be sanctioned. That is not a joke, but it's a message and it's a warning. Since a majority of them have given me the assurances that schools must go on, the few who want to hold us back, they will face the arm of the
campaigning for back to school in the heart of Wat village. The divisional officer was paid a surprise visit by Fonfo Ibrahim Jabu, son of Kamer, who added his voice to the back to school call. Acknowledging that things have changed since his last official visit to Wat, Mr. Ngida Lawrence Chair ended his visit at the residence of a couple blessed with triplets. Unemployment is a problem in Cameroon. A poor infrastructure is also a problem affecting several localities. Statistics from the National Institute of Statistics so far indicates that Cameroonians are suffering unemployment and much money is spent by the country to import rice. And he went further to state that some 1.5 billion francs CFA is being spent by the country to import rice. So 1,500 persons have been rendered unemployed as a result of the closure of a rice producing factory in Sancho. And of course, this is a structure in which taxpayers' money of the Cameroonian people in billions of francs CFA was invested, but unfortunately, surprisingly, without explanations to Cameroonians, it has been abandoned in ruins. Smart Njikangebe tells us more on this story.
The rice production factory in Sancho, Menua division of the West region, needs to be rescued by the government. Created in 1961, the factory that used to survive the inhabitants of Sancho has now been abandoned with 1,500 persons unemployed.
Here in Sancho, there was a factory that produces rice that used to employ even the children in Sancho all over the republic, but right now they've closed it out.
I worked there with my mother and children. I was a cultivator. It was a very good rice. Now I'm unemployed, just like my kids. They are making us to eat expensive rice, which is imported. When the company used to be alive, produced 3 types of rice with its quality compared to rice imported from other countries to Cameroon. Many said that the quality of rice was better than the rice produced in Yagua. Some was even exported.
Une partie a été même exportée.
It was a factory that enabled the development of Sancho.
Qui a même provoqué, je peux dire, qui a boosté le développement de cette commune de Sancho. Mais malheureusement,
its closure has left behind so many unemployed.
Le chômage s'est accentué ici. Et je vous dirais tout simplement que les populations pleurent.
The rice company has now been engulfed by grass, with several of its equipment in ruins. Due to the closure of this rice company in Sancho, the standard of living has also increased. Rice that was bought at very low price has now increased. I buy a bag of rice at 21,500 francs. It was sold at 17,500 francs before the outbreak of COVID-19. Nowadays, we feed our kids difficultly, and even the 4,500 francs that was added is too much. Sancho used to produce rice, and we now eat only imported rice.
Nous demandons pourquoi cette société est fermée. Et puis nous achetons les riz importés.
According to statistics given by the National Institute of Statistics, the company that was closed in 1997 resulted to the unemployment of 1,500 people and about 1 billion francs CFA lost by the government.
We are done with the first part of news. Coming up is Talking Point. Thanks for joining us on Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are receiving a political analyst. We are receiving Apostle Ambe Valentine. Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Good evening, Armstrong. Good evening, Cameroonians. It's always a privilege and opportunity to address very pertinent issues as far as nation Cameroon is concerned.
Yeah, pertinent issues, you see, and when you watch the news, we've had at least 3 reports or 4 reports of Cameroonians protesting for various reasons, different but correlated reasons, talking about poor management, talking about exploitation. As a political analyst, what does that imply?
You see, the challenge we have in our nation is that whenever they say they are doing cabinet reshufflement, they do a cabinet rotation. We put round pegs in square holes and square pegs in round holes. People who are not competent to manage certain offices are given the responsibility, probably because they are connected to a political party or they are linked to the powers that be, not because they have the skill and the aptitude to navigate such sectors of life. I followed inside the presidency yesterday, hosted by Ashunienti, yes, and the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development. Elanga Obam was the one discussing on how the decentralization process has been taken care of and a lot of development has taken place. Only to my dismay today to realize that at certain councils in the nation, people were there protesting because they have not been paid their salary. So I'm asking, is this decentralization stuff a farce? Is it some illusion, or is it a myth that we need to look into again? So I mean, it's giving me really concern because we cannot have an interview of the person in charge. So I'm asking, is this decentralization stuff a farce? Is it some illusion, or is it a myth that we need to look into again? So I mean, it's giving me really concern because we cannot have an interview of the person in charge crying from behind, but they can tell you that things are not running the way they're supposed to be running. Look, for instance, in Boya, the mayor that came there said he met huge debts. Now, we were supposedly told that a Kamer died, or was working very hard to see that the Boya Council is okay, only for him to die, and then he left a huge amount of debt. It means they followed his physical manifestation without auditing him. How can a council run for years without a mayor being audited? Because if such,
that's a problem.
If such a bizarre act can take place in a council, it tells you what can happen in other sectors of the country when they are not properly audited. I think,
and that's the case of Boya, where the mayor was courageous enough, who had the opportunity to tell the world, yes, and Cameroonians what he is going through. And it will not be surprising to get other mayors too. More than half of the mayors in Cameroon going through that same challenge.
You see, the issue is this: many people are suffering, but they are not bold enough to express themselves. It's often said that a goat eats where it's tied. When people are being given responsibilities, sometimes they become very afraid to address very pertinent issues that can better the lives of the nation, the people as a whole. But it's so complicated in such a way that when people are given an opportunity to eat, as long as they eat at the expense of every other person, they don't bother. And this is a challenge we have in Cameroon. A mayor is managing a particular council, the workers are not being paid, and they begin to start to carry protest in the street and placards to complain. It's an abuse to such a council, and it's a question mark because why all councils in Cameroon are being supported by the government through FIACOM.
Exactly.
And then if budgets is being released to such councils, and at the end of the day the workers are not being paid
for 6
we
months.
Also know that
in the case of Yaoundé 6, for example, for 6 months, and the mayor
FIACOM.
Exactly.
And then if budgets is being released to such councils, and at the end of the day the workers are not being paid
for 6
we
months.
Also know that
in the case of Yaoundé 6, for example, for 6 months, and the mayor is not ashamed to say it is just an administrative issue. People go for 6 months, you don't pay them. He proudly says his council coffers are not as empty as in other places. That is the statement of the mayor of Yaoundé 6. There's money, but you've not paid people for 6 months.
What is administrative in not paying workers that labor, that sweat day and night to see that the nation is better? What is administrative in it? When we start to use political balance to cover incompetence, it's very, very delicate. Because the truth is, when you begin to bite the fingers that feed you, it will be delicate for you tomorrow. Those same workers will rise against you. Remember, a mayor has been elected. He's not an appointed individual. And if the people rise up tomorrow, it's very delicate. I always say this, and I go to all platforms and I say this. Democracy is when the people have the government. The people have the government. And when the people decide, there is no imperial power that has such capacity to stop Africans from kicking people out of responsibility. It's the same thing my father used to tell me as a young boy, that there's a proverb in our village that once you cook for the community, they will eat and ask for more. That the community cooks for you alone, you won't be able to finish it. So we're telling those mayors who are not paying those workers that they are daring to cook for the community. They want the community to cook for them, and the community cooks for them, they won't be able to finish it.
They can't finish. And you see, talking about challenges, concerns raised by mayors in Cameroon vis-a-vis the effectiveness of decentralization. We've had the mayor of Njombe Penja, for example,
yes,
Koleri Kinge, cried out loud, indicating that there were some sectors within, or some resources within his area of command, wherein he expected his council to benefit, but unfortunately whatever is taken out of that place is sent, and some other persons are benefiting at the level of Jakundi.
The issue is there are people who are appointed into office and people who are elected. An elected individual has more power than him that is appointed. But it's the opposite in our country. The reverse is the true in Cameroon. DOs and SDOs have power more than elected mayors, which is an error. Look, for instance, what happened in the village there in Campo, in the south. A traditional ruler rose up and said, "You are my collaborator, you are not my authority." According to the law of forestry in 1994, in a community like that, Campo, for instance, if they are extracting woods from that place, the council has 40%, the government has 40%, the village has 20%. Now the chief is the one that endorses the extraction of woods from that community. That's the problem. Now a DO comes there, extract woods from that community, collects all the money, and then sidelines the chief. When the chief gives nothing to the chief, yeah. When the chief starts to confront, it becomes a problem. Paul Kinge is the mayor of Njombe Penja. According to the decentralization law, it is the mayor that has control over the police in such a community. It's the mayor that has influence over most of the activities. The council has a right to benefit over certain things. Look at the quarry. Look at the quarry.
Yes, it was a quarry.
It was a quarry concern. Now it was a deal that came there and sealed the quarry. So it is funny enough to say that a mayor will seal a quarry, and then the deal comes and unseal the quarry. It's an infringement against somebody's office and the law. But the issue is because law is being thwarted, and the law works in favor of a particular group of people, because the law in this nation is not written for all the masses, it's written for a few.
You're raising a very important point there, very pertinent. Now, do you even see this decentralization whole thing working effectively at a point where we have DOs and SDOs still feeling big and powerful in the presence of elected officials? I'm talking about mayors.
The issue with the decentralization stuff is this. I must be sincere with you, Armstrong. How do you take a government delegate, an officer was supposed to be neutralized, and they make a city mayor? City mayor is
of Limbe.
City mayor is the advanced name for a government delegate, or a decentralized name. They decentralize the name from delegate to city mayor. They play the same role. The mayors, most of them, their necks are on the ground like George Floyd. Why the city mayors, their knees are on the necks of those mayors. DOs are on the necks of the mayor. A mayor is an individual. If you go to Europe, if you go to America, mayors have the capacity to even stop some movements in their community, because they are the local government authorities. They are the people recognized by the community. The people themselves decided to put this person to govern us. When people elect a leader, is different from when people appoint a leader. Because when they elect a leader, it means they have submitted and they have paid obeisance and declared their loyalty to such a person. When you begin to tamper with such offices, you are jeopardizing your own office. So it will be amazed to see that some certain offices, it will be delicate for people to really manage it.
And now we're moving faster to it's coming. These problems are coming from other parts of Cameroon to join the issues we already had in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. It's getting complex there. I had a guest here yesterday who told me that the fact that we've had some city mayors elected in the northern and southwest regions of Cameroon is part of the special status that was given, that is solving the crisis in the northwest. Is a way, or an advanced way, or that is the first steps in resolving the Anglophone crisis, as per what came out of the major national dialogue.
You know, the special status is very porous. And it's a combination of many reforms: judicial reforms, educational reforms, security reforms that were supposed to be put in place, parliamentary reforms that were supposed to be put in place. But unfortunately, I'm telling you, Armstrong, as far as the educational sector is concerned, no reform has taken place. Because why? The cries of the teachers and the lawyers, their challenge has not been properly addressed. Goes to the judiciary. It's not been properly addressed. There are hidden enemies in Cameroon that have not taken arms. There are a group of teachers who are not comfortable with the reforms of the educational sector. They have not gone on the street, they have not protested, but they will not work under such conditions. So we have different segments of people who are grieved in the country, but they have just kept quiet because of the crackdown. That is something that the government has to look into, the cries and the pleas of the people, because we're saying that the immediate causes of the Anglophone crisis was the judiciary and the educational sector that were tampered with, and they said they have solved the problem. They haven't even treated the immediate causes, talk less of the remote causes. You know, if we address the immediate causes without dealing with the remote causes, we are trimming the branches of a tree without dealing with the roots.
The roots. And
yes.
the tree will still be there.
Yes.
I see it's actually a concern. Finally, I will say, does that in any way reflect the statement made by Thibault Nage? Thibault Nage actually contextualized the PPRD.
Yes. He said in his last tweet that the people are not interested or waiting for reconstruction. They want independence. That is the statement Thibault Nage tweeted. To the best of my understanding, you cannot keep on holding to what you want and you expect peace. Both sides should relax the tension of the rope, because tension can only be if you hold fast to your end of the rope. I hold fast to my end of the rope. If both sides, that's the government and the armed separatists, can relax the end of what they hold on to, it will be easier for them to come together and then make a decision.
Thanks very much, Apostle Ambi Valentine. You are a political journalist. It was an interesting chat with you.
It's always a pleasure, Armstrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your very kind attention. Stay with Equinoxe Television. Interesting programs continue.